So that's what happened in 1603. She dies, gone, without announcing any children. But did she have children? There's a lot of evidence, all circumstantial, none of it in writing, except if you count certain codes as writing. To tell you the entire picture, that De Vere was an unknown, unacknowledged child of the Queen, that Rosalie was an unknown, unacknowledged child of the Queen, that Bacon was an, I mean, it's there, it's clear as day, it's right there, you can see it. When you see it eventually, we will release it. It just says, anonymous king, for all of them. Wow, they're all children of the Queen, all waiting in the wings, and none of them was acknowledged by her. So at some point, I think they all wanted the truth to come out. And they had to abide by King James's wishes. You couldn't directly oppose him and say, hey, I'm the king, I'm the king. No, I'm the king. No, I'm Claudius. I'm my Claudius. Couldn't do that, but at the same time, if you know you are, you'd want to leave evidence that you are, because it's just the right thing to do, and I think that's what they did. They left us evidence to say, hey, I know the official story is X, but wait till you see Y and Z. So there was this historical thing called the Essex Rebellion, in which Lord Essex decides to storm the castle to try to get in to see the Queen, along with Rosalie. Rosalie was with him, and several others were with him, and they had a lot of support, which only kind of adds to the suspicion that if you were to let Essex do this, the people who gave him support must also have known the inner secret, that he really was, this is Essex now. Maybe he's a child of the Queen. This has been speculated too. And, you know, if people knew this, then that would explain why he got such a lot of support for this wild thing that he did. Comes down to us in history as the Essex Rebellion. Of course, they get wind of it, they know it's going to happen, and they set a trap for them, and they're stopped from actually managing to pull off anything. Some say he actually entered the Queen's bedroom and, you know, confronted her. Confronted her with what? Tell the world that I'm your son? Who knows? But in any case, they all were tried for treason. And Essex was beheaded, and 3 others were beheaded, and a few others were let off with lighter sentences, huge fines. Rosalie was one of them. He was convicted of treason. Should have been hung, drawn and quartered. But he wasn't. He was ended up being put into prison in the Tower, and Cecil suspends his execution indefinitely, but always hanging on a thread. A brilliant stratagem. When the trial happened for the Essex Rebellion, who was the absolute, the judge most in charge of all the other judges? There's a lot of judges, right? But they're all these aristocrats, and the head of it all is the Lord Great Chamberlain of England, Edward de Vere. He has to sit in judgment of his own son on trial for treason. It's staggering. And he has to bring a verdict of guilty. It's heartbreaking. he has to stand up and say, because all the other, I don't know how many, I should know, but I don't know how many others there are, 20 perhaps. Maybe it's not 20, but it's a substantial number of other judges. But he's the top guy. But he can't just say no. He's got to, they've all voted. Clearly they're guilty of treason. Because it's a kangaroo court, it's fixed anyway. And he's got to stand up, look his son in the eye and say, you should be taken from this place. You have been found guilty of treason against Her Majesty. You should be taken from this place. And at such time as pleaseth her majesty, you shall be hung, drawn, and quartered until dead. So he has to condemn his own child to death, along with the others. So the others, 4 of them, are executed. She goes as far as executing Essex, and if Essex was her child, that shows she was probably on the way out mentally anyway. She's okay about killing Essex. She spares him, hung, drawn, and quartered. Just chop his head off. Rosalie's in the Tower, convicted of treason, subject to death at any minute under the whim of whoever says so. Now, the Queen's going senile. She has already ordered the execution of Essex, who might be her son, might not, we don't know, but looks very likely. Is she going to allow it to happen to Rosalie as well? Probably doesn't want it. But anyway, perfect for Cecil, who wants to retain control. And Cecil magnanimously spares Rosalie's life. No, he won't be executed. But what this means is it a magnanimous offer of grace, or is it a brilliant move of genius, a stroke of genius? Because he's got Rosalie in the Tower, awaiting execution any moment. And now he's got control of the others who are the knowers, the ones in the know. Certainly De Vere, who's likely his father. And he can get De Vere to do anything, which includes capitulating to who will succeed to the throne. And Cecil certainly wants James on the throne, because James he can control. If it's one of the sons who are one of the legitimate sons, if it's Bacon, or if it's Rosalie, or if it's De Vere himself, or God knows who else waiting in the wings, he can't control that, because they will want his neck the moment they're in the king. So he knows he's in a trap, Cecil. But Cecil's got checkmate waiting on the board, because Rosalie's in the Tower, and all he has to do is to say to Oxford, De Vere, give it up. Not allowing your son to be king. You're not going to be king. Bacon's not going to be king. Nobody's going to be king except James. And if you disagree, I can just have your son, Rosalie, executed tomorrow on a whim. But I won't. He's hostage. He's a hostage. And so the fact is, all right then, if you're Oxford in that situation, you're going to go whatever you want. And that's what happened. So Elizabeth dies hours before the new year. James is announced the next king. The deal is done. He will be quiet about all the scandal, about whatever children Elizabeth had, whatever else is going on behind the scenes there, and also a few other things that would take a bit more explanation, but he's got control. He's got control of it. James ascends to the throne, and James's first act, before he even rides down from Edinburgh to London to be crowned, his first official act as King James I of England. The Tudor monarchy is gone now. It's over. The Tudor dynasty is over. Because she wouldn't say she has any children, waiting in the wings, and that's it. First thing James does is he releases Rosalie from the Tower. That's his first official act. The deed's done. I'm king now. All right. Now you get your prize. Rosalie's released and he's forgiven. Forgiven treason. And not only that, he's made a Knight of the Garter, and all his estates are returned to him. And they give him the Isle of Wight as well as a little bonus. You can go and live off your little life in the Isle of Wight while I'm the king here. The deal was done. It was fixed. Oxford got his child back, and nobody would know this royal secret.